Okay, Jonathan, I'm going to try this. It's early here. Hola a todos. Smythe aquí. Bienvenido a Camp Phoenix. Lo siento, pero necesito hablar inglés ahora porque en la mañana hablando español es muy difícil para mí. Entonces, lo siento. Okay, so I hope you caught that. My Spanish is, again, I need a few beers in me before I start speaking Spanish, and that's just how it is, so I apologize, especially if you're listening in English. I lived in Central America for a few years, so my Spanish is muy tico. Pura vida. ¿Sí? Lo siento. ¿Sabe? Okay, Jonathan, I got some questions from you. I'm going to try to answer each one of these really fast, too, because it's hot here in the desert. Early, but hot nonetheless. Number one, how was Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements brand born? We began, this is kind of a long story, but I'm going to try to give you the cliff notes. We began almost 10 years ago now in a spare bedroom in my apartment in Massachusetts. Originally, the idea to start a business started in Central America, in Costa Rica. When I was living down there, I created a product called Ich No Mas, because every evening, twilight, sand fleas would come out of the ground and bite me. And there was no products in the village to treat these itches, these itches with. It was very itchy, and there was nothing I could put on it to stop the itching. So I invented something. I went to the pharmacia and bought different essential oils and different chemicals and created a product, again, I called Ich No Mas. And it worked. It worked really well. So much so, tourists and even locals were knocking on my tent to get some. It was that good and that effective. And I told myself if I ever made my way back to the United States, I was going to send Ich No Mas down to Costa Rica to be sold. And I did that. 4 years later, I didn't realize this was, I said it as a joke, but 4 years later, I was selling Ich No Mas and Stink No Mas, which is a deodorant I created that when you wore it, as you sweat, it would keep the bugs away, or the bichos away. And it worked really well. In fact, Stink No Mas sold better than Ich No Mas, but I wasn't making a lot of money because of the shipping down to Central America. So I needed to focus on a product in the United States. I created a blog first called howtogrowAmustache.com. I was trying to sell ads for other companies, but I realized I couldn't do that. So I needed to create my own product, and I created a mustache wax. Then I created a shave soap. My girlfriend was doing a shave soap company called Pedal Pusher Fancies. I started How to Grow a Mustache. Eventually we combined forces and created Phoenix Shaving. And so that's how it began, kind of. I mean, that's just a real quick story. It's much longer than that. Also, Douglas Smythe is my stage name, or it's my pen name, my writing name, my author name. It's not my real name. It's a name I chose to use for this company, for Phoenix Shaving. So it's kind of like a character too. I got my degree in theater, so that's just how I'm wired. Number two, when and how did you get the idea for your advertising inspired by comics and cinema from the 50s, 60s, and 70s? Well, in Costa Rica, I had a graphic art business I started. I studied graphic arts for 4 years. So I had a graphic arts business I started down there because I needed to make money. And if I worked in Costa Rica, I was only going to be making $1 an hour. So I needed to start my own business. And I did, and that happened really fast. Me and my girlfriend was from Venezuela, my ex-girlfriend. And we put together this graphic art company. And in that, I kind of came up with my own voice or my own look based on comics, which I love. I collected comics growing up, and I loved retro sci-fi. So I was doing that down there for advertising. So when I came up here, when I came back to the United States, it's just something I like. It's my passion, sci-fi, comics, that look, that feel. I love the atomic age or era look. So I wanted my products to, I just wanted to pour everything I enjoy and love in life into our business. So it's a very natural thing for me to do. It wasn't really a master plan. That's how it happened, and that's what I enjoy. Where does your inspiration come from when creating fragrances? And how did the pre-shave cube come about? Okay, so I'm inspired by everything around me. Whatever new scent comes out, original scent, it's usually inspired by something around me. A trip I went on, or something I was reading about. There's usually a lot of meaning in whatever ingredients I'm using. So that's part of the Phoenix shaving thing. And I should probably talk about that actually, but I'll get to that in the end. So it really comes about by living life is where I get inspired to create scents. And I can wake up in the morning with a scent idea, and by the end of the night have it already, not in production, but already working on it and see if I like it or not. I have a new scent coming out right now with sassafras, and I was just introduced to sassafras, like really introduced to it a couple weeks back when I was on a trip in Sedona, Arizona. I was at a Native American store or shop. Shop is being generous, but someone was selling, a Native American was selling sassafras, and I fell in love with that scent and wanted to use it in my next creation. So I'm working on something like that right now as an example. But there's a whole story around it he explained to me and the history of it. And if you are familiar with our sales pages, I really like to do a deep dive into the history and the mystery of why I'm doing what I do. Where did the cube come from? The cube came from, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but we were the first shaving company to create a pre-shave soap. So the cube is part of that evolution. Cube kind of came to me in a dream almost. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And cube was being prophesized by us in our labels and our advertisements long before the release, like a year and a half before it was released as a product. So cube was coming. And that's really all I can say about Cube. Is a very mysterious being and he needed to exist, so we made that happen. What is the difference between normal formula CK1 and CK6? Well, first of all, a lot of people get confused. They think CK1, or our original formula, is kokum butter formula. All of our shave soaps use kokum butter, so that doesn't separate them. What does separate them is the new oils that we introduced when formulating CK6. So CK6 came about as a challenge to me and Fran. We really wanted to see if we could make the best shave soap out there, and it was more for fun. Like, we just kept experimenting with our original formula over and over until we came up with something just magical. And we weren't even going to sell it. We were actually going to give it away in our loyalty program. But then I sent some to Mantic and a few other people, and they fell in love with it and said, when is this going to be for sale? This is the best soap I've ever tried, better than tallow, better than everything. So that's why we started doing it. But if you really want to learn more about CK6, go to our website. In the menu, it says Premium Formula CK6. Click that and it'll tell you the whole story about how that came to be, because it is a pretty long story. And yeah. The shaving brushes are very soft and comfortable to the face. Why did you choose 24mm size? Well, Jonathan, I chose 24mm and 26mm. We offer both sizes. I'm a fan of that size. I think 24mm is a great place for everybody to begin. It's a good middle of the road size. And then 26mm is just a little bit bigger, but it's personal preference. A great thing about this company, in fact, the real way this company began is I couldn't find a bay rum soap out there, and I've been a bay rum fan my entire life. That's when I started making soaps originally, was just to make myself a bay rum soap. And like CK6, I sent it out to some friends and they were like, when is it for sale? So again, that's a short version of the story, but that's how it started. Is I was creating it for myself. And same thing with the brushes. I was creating them for myself. Luckily, other people love them too. So that's great. It worked out. But yeah, it's just a personal preference for me. And I think brush sizes 24 and 26mm are like the perfect sizes. Like, that's like the Goldilocks zone. And then I'm getting asked, what generation of synthetic knot is that? I don't know what that means. I just got a question the other day from someone about what generation our knots are. That must be, in the forums and groups, people start making up new words like generation. What generation is that? I don't know what that is. They're synthetic knots. They're hybrids that I created, combining a bulb and a fan knot together out of available synthetic fibers that come from South Korea. So I don't know who's calling them generations, but it's new fibers. South Korea is where all knots are made. So I don't know if someone's using for a selling point, calling something new generation, but if anything, ours is a new it's a hybrid knot that we created. We came up with that design using fibers that existed. So I don't know what that means. I don't use that word. It's like when people talk about blade gap. I don't speak in blade gap either. People in the forums really get, what we say up here, lost in the weeds, and it just causes too much confusion. The question at the end of the day is, how did it shave? Don't talk about blade gap to me. Talk about how did it shave? Because I can give you the blade gap. I can give you 5 different razors from over the last 50 years, vintage ones, modern ones, all with the same blade gap, and they will all shave differently and feel differently on your face. So I don't talk about stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense. When it comes to brushes, how did it feel? How was the performance? Number 6. Besides being a product that has not undergone animal testing, why is it called vegan? Why our soap is called vegan? Because we don't use animal products. That's what makes something vegan. I mean, there's a couple different levels of veganism, but what makes something vegan in this case, the soap, is there's no animal products. We don't use any animal products. I myself, I'm vegan also. I've been vegan for 20 years now, so I don't eat any animal products or animal byproducts, and neither does our soap. And because it's a big myth out there. People think tallow is the best, and tallow isn't the best. Again, in the forums, people confuse stuff. They start repeating what they've heard, and it's just traditionalists or traditionalistas that say tallow is the best. Tallow as an ingredient was only ever used in soap because it was cheap for companies years ago to buy. It was a byproduct of the meat industry. And what it contains is stearic acid. Stearic acid is needed in shave soap to give you lather. So that's why they were using it. It was cheap and it had stearic acid in it. Today, we have access to oils and butters from all around the world. We didn't have that 50 years ago, 75 years ago. Only in the last 20 years have we had access to these oils. And a lot of them have even more stearic acid than tallow. But again, chemists, people that are not chemists and don't know chemistry, hear that tallow word and they think it's magical. It's not. It's just used for its stearic acid. Stearic acid is stearic acid no matter where it comes from. We choose to use cocoa butter. Cocoa butter actually has more stearic acid than tallow. So that's why when people make a big deal out of vegan soap, they don't need to, because it's just soap. Call it shave soap. Call it what it is. But people need to like pick a tribe or a team. Team meat, team vegan. Just call it shave soap. For young people who are just starting out, this is number 7, for young people who are just starting out in wet shaving, from what age do you consider it appropriate for them to shave with your products, and what benefits on the skin can they obtain? I say, as soon as you need to start shaving, you start using our products. 15, 13, well, in Mexico, 14 es posible. Pero no sé. As soon as you need to start shaving, I say, maybe use our products. It's definitely better starting off with a safety razor than a cartridge razor. In fact, cartridge razors have hurt me, have hurt all of us. Most men that think they have sensitive skin don't have sensitive skin. They just use cartridge razors, so they're inadvertently giving themselves sensitive skin when it's not. They don't really have sensitive skin. It's just the cartridge razors that are causing them, and now they believe they have sensitive skin. So I say start, as soon as you need to start shaving, use a safety razor and use our products, and it's going to be the best thing for your skin ever. You won't get ingrown hairs, you won't get ingrown razor burn, you won't have any skin problems like you do when you use cartridge razors and soap in a can. So yeah, the sooner you start, the better. And I'm jealous. Now you're asking, what shaving, number 8, ocho. What shaving products do you have in your sales catalog on your website? What other? I have so many others. I recommend going to phoenixshaving.com ahora o pronto and looking at all the products we offer. But I should mention, aside from offering shaving products and cool retro vintage looking products, there's a whole ongoing saga and story that I've been writing for the last, I don't know, almost 10 years. So there's an ongoing story. If you scroll down our sales pages, like Organism 46B, Agata, High Jump 47, John From, what else is there? Terra Preta, Megaflora. There's lots of sales pages that have a story, an ongoing comic-like story, where I am your hero in the story, but it's been going on forever, and it continues going on. In fact, a new one is coming out soon, Fresco, and this is the book that comes with it. So yeah, this is the story I write on Fresco. There I am. look a lot like I do right now. But yeah, so this is the latest story that's coming out very soon with the release of Fresco. And again, yeah, very sci-fi. But yeah, so if you didn't know that, and a lot of people don't know that, we have an ongoing saga, an ongoing story. I also hide like symbols and anagrams and different clues in our advertisements and in the labels. There's lots of different characters that come and go, telling part of the story. There's a whole Phoenix shaving universe. So again, a lot of people don't know about that. Now you guys know about that. And that's it. So thanks for having me, Jonathan. Muchas gracias a todos. Necesito practicar mi español ahora. Necesario. Ok. Bien. R con R cigarro, R con R barril, rápido ruido en los carros por los reales del ferrocarril. ¿Eh? Chiste gracioso, ¿no?